Is your life lived by default or intentional creation? This is non-Monogamous Mark coming to you with my daily thoughts today about the idea of our lives are made to create. You see, most of the time, those of us who live ethically and consensually non-monogamous lifestyles, that we didn't get raised, we weren't raised that way. And so we were raised with a default. Oftentimes that default is what we see out there in monogamy, or in our society and culture, and that is monogamy. You know, it's just like ethically and consensually non-monogamous lifestyles have been lived forever, but they're lived in the closet. And so it's not what's modeled, it's not what is seen, and not is what is visible. And yet somehow you found your way to living an ethically and consensually non-monogamous lifestyle. Or if you're not living an ethically and consensually non-monogamous lifestyle, then you found your way to where you desire to, or you know you're interested in, or curious about these kinds of lifestyles. And so you're interested in heading in that direction. But see, just as with myself, you know, when I spent many years as a religious Christian, you know, one of those born-again, conservative, judgmental, condemning, and criticizing Christians, and I one day realized that I became the religious person, and I never wanted to be. I wasn't a loving person because I was so judgmental, condemning, and criticizing of everybody. And so I didn't think that my life at all was what God wanted or what I wanted. And yet in the church, I spent many years living my life for God. But that was all a default for me, you know. In high school, I ended up following some girls into church one day and kind of stuck around because I liked the girls there. And then just sticking around, I started to have this whole religious thing unfold in my life, and that was a default. And some of it was good, you know, but then I never understood the whole arena. Like, to me, a slut was a really terrible, bad thing, and the idea that somebody would be a swinger, they were perverted, ugly, icky people. You know, they were awful people. That's was all what was in our mind. Never even considered there'd be something like polyamory or bisexual behavior. You know, that's all wrong. And so I lived that default in my life for many years. But then one day when I finally realized that I was not someone who was pleasing to myself, being judgmental and critical and being religious and pious and self-righteous as I wasn't pleasing to myself in my own life. But I had gotten there by default. You know, it was kind of like I was indoctrinated by my church life, and that was my default. Now, you may have not had a similar experience with church life, or you might have. But the point is that your life is set on default, and, you know, when you start living an ethically and consensually non-monogamous life, that's a life that you choose, and you do that by intention, not by default, not just by flowing with the crowd and going along with the crowd. And so one of the things that I reach out with you on these videos, because knowing that this community of ethically and consensually non-monogamous people are not people who chose that, for the most part, by default. They didn't choose their lifestyle by default. Yes, they're often very closeted, very secret lifestyles. But there's so many other areas that your life can be impacted by when you will, just like you did with your ethical and consensual non-monogamous lifestyle, you made intentional choices. And you can make intentional choices in all the other areas of your life as well, and stop living your life by default. Because also, too often, that's how our life is certainly lived. You know, we have the jobs that we have. Why? Because that was the kind of job and so forth that you had high intention for? Or is it by default? And when I got out of college, I went to college and got a lot of education because I wanted to be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. and got out of college and got on track with that and was doing really well on track. But one of the things that became a very big surprise to me is to find out how many people that went to college pursuing a field of study. And it was over half the people that were my co-workers and my associates at work that, they got out of college, and it's kind of like the job that came along by default is the one that they took, and it really had little to do with their college education. Yes, the job required that they be college educated, but it wasn't in a specialty field or anything like that. It wasn't where their interests really lied, but it was a job. And so many of us find that that's how we end up getting where we're at. And that's fine. Accept and understand that where you're at today is a really great thing. There's a lot of good things going on in your life. But then as you move forward in your life, I just want you to understand that you have the ability to make an intentional choice in your life. If you have things about your job that you don't like, maybe you don't make enough money. Maybe you don't like some of the things going on at work or whatever. Make some change and start being intentional and deciding what you want to take and change in your life. Same thing with your health and your fitness. For many years, I spent the first 25 years of my life, from age 0 to 25, building my muscle structure, just by naturally building that, And then I spent about 10 years after that, trying to kind of maintain it. And then after that, I stopped trying to maintain it, and my core muscles all went to pot. And, to do the push-ups that I used to do lots of push-ups, used to do lots of sit-ups. Got to a place where, are you kidding? Doing push-ups, 25, 50 push-ups, 200 sit-ups? Are you kidding me? And so I realized that at one point in my life, and realized, because awareness is really good. That's the awareness in our lives is the beginning to change and improvement if we will be intentional. That's how what's happened for many of us, whether ethical and consensual non-monogamous lifestyles, is that we became aware that we just wanted something different, something a little extra, a little more, whatever the situation was. But you became aware, and then you became intentional. But I just encourage you to utilize that same process in the rest of your life. Become aware, and then become intentional and go for the things that you want to have in life and be intentional about that instead of just living your life by default. And so if you like this idea, then this is kind of the tone of a lot of the videos that I make in very specific areas, whether it be financially or also your relationships or your health and fitness or sex and love in your life. We want to just encourage you to be very aware of what you want and then be looking to move towards what you want. Without the doubts in your mind, because it's our doubts oftentimes that we create for ourselves and hold us back. And so we want to help to liberate you in your thinking so you can have an abundance of liberation and freedom in your life in all of these areas. And so let us help you to continue to do that. In order to do that, go ahead and click on that link below and subscribe to our email list so that we can keep in touch with you and keep hopefully inspiring you. So thanks a lot, and enjoy your rest of your evening or day.